Okay, it's time to start the next panel, which will be about touring and playing in festivals. So, live music panel. Our guest, Becky Laverty from Roadburn Festival. Marin Lalic from Beerstone Festival. And the almighty Zoltán Jakab from Újpest. And of course, Doomstar Booking. I don't want to joke, but I had to do this. So Doomstar Booking, he's representing now. So if we talk about introduction, we obviously need to introduce your festivals. And if we talk about Zoli, I think it would be necessary to introduce what are you doing at Doomstar only, because I think the rest of your career is known to these guys. So yeah, let's start with Marin.
What do you want from me?
Talk about a bit yourself and the festival, because some of the guys never been there.
Sure thing. So I'm Marin Lalic. I'm the head of Beerstone Festival, which is a fairly young festival, an outdoor festival in Croatia that's dedicated to a wide array of stoner rock music, this neo-psychedelic music, so basically all over the place, but in this region. We're fairly unique because of the location that the festival is being held at. We're in a canyon of a river, River Mrežnica, in the heart of Croatia. So the nature is in the very heart of the festival itself. Apart from that, we also have this unique visual aspect of the festival. We have this a collective of young people from Berlin called Sector 7G that do analog techniques to produce psychedelic visuals. So we don't have any LED screens or anything like that. They use this old school projectors to basically mix oil colors onto them and to have a live performance to illuminate the stage.
Can you say you guys have LSD screens?
Drugs are illegal in Croatia, and we take that very seriously.
And trolls are illegal in Budapest.
I don't think my microphone is working.
No?
No.
I am very unplugged.
Okay. Can you hear Zoli?
Hello, hello, hello. I'm gonna use someone else's. Hello. Okay, it works.
Okay, but don't repeat your joke. No. Yeah.
I think this pretty much sums it up. Want to take it over?
Okay, so let's go to Netherlands and an indoor festival, which is completely different, but...
Yes, my name is Becky. I am a booker at Roadburn Festival, but as you can probably tell from my accent, I am not Dutch. I live in the UK. I've been a freelance publicist for 17 years, and my first job at Roadburn was press and communications, so that's where I started. I've been there for 10 years now, and I've been part of the booking team for a few years. But this year was the 25th year of Roadburn, so it's been going for a long time. It started out as more of a stoner, doom, psychedelic kind of festival, and it's evolved a lot over the years. We kind of describe the music that we put on at Roadburn as heavy. It's a nice broad descriptor which covers a lot of different genres, allows a lot of flexibility and a lot of room for evolution. It's an indoor festival based in Tilburg. The central hub of the festival is the O13 venue, which is a state-of-the-art venue, but we have 5 stages. It runs for 4 days every April, and we have about 4,500 people. And we do a lot of different projects. We do a lot of commission projects, which we've been doing since 2018, where we commission artists or groups of artists to work together and create original compositions that they'll perform at the festival. We also have artists in residence, where we have artists that will perform multiple times over the weekend. We used to have curators, which we have not done since the pandemic, really, where we would give over a portion of the festival to a curator, somebody in a band, usually. We've had people like John Baisley from Baroness, Thomas from At the Gates, people like that who would book and curate parts of the festival with us. But yeah, we don't do that anymore. And that's kind of a summary of Roadburn.
Yeah, thank you. Zoli, how did you meet the guys from Doomstar, and how did you become an agent there?
I worked obviously in the local music industry, and I did DIY tours internationally in the early 2000s, maybe mainly for my old bands and some like-minded bands. And then I was tour managing a band called Triple Black Phoenix, and that was the time when the band switched on to Doomstar bookings, and for some reason they gave me a job after it. It's a Dutch boutique agency. We have about 170 artists divided between 9 or 10 agents. The majority of our back office is based in the Netherlands. The company is based in the Netherlands, pretty close to where Roadburn is, and there's a couple international agents, myself included. We got colleagues in the United Kingdom, France, Germany right now. And we basically book bands on tours and festivals.
Okay, so today we are having many musicians here, as we mentioned this in the previous panels. So we would like to share some insights from your signing or booking strategies, and let's start with the agency side. What's the scouting method for you, or is there any communication channel within the agency, how to judge the incoming music, how to react on them, how to see, because obviously you are getting a lot of applications, just like the festivals.
Yeah, we do. Basically, right now the process is pretty much discussing with everybody else within the office. Just right now, we got an interest a couple hours before to discuss a band that we're basically actively throwing it out. There's inside communications channels within the company. We use an app called Slack for it, which is probably a lot of you are familiar with it. We either get individual requests, or we also get those mass requests where band is emailing all 10 agents and the whole back office, like even the person that is PR. Then there's a lot of word of mouth where certain clients of ours recommend us to friends of theirs, like-minded bands, contemporaries. We basically sit down and see, and of course we also find bands ourselves, because I'd like to believe we're still fans of music, especially with the size of agency we are, that is very heavily connected, myself included, around people that have been in touring bands, were promoters. So we're trying to stay some sort of up to date with whatever is going on in the world of extreme music, and sometimes we just pick an artist that we like. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but they also, primarily, if you have an organization as large as that has over 170 bands, I believe, which is what we have now, it's a little tougher to keep an eye on every smaller up-and-coming act, but there's a whole network of music industry individuals around us, be it our good connections with managements, record labels, may as well be other agencies, even promoters, press people, that are occasionally going to come and, hey, you really should check this one out. And then we're checking it out, we're discussing it. Is it something that is worth investing in? Is it not something that is worth investing in? And then we make a common decision. We assign the band to the agent that is most willing, and we take it from there.
Okay, Becky, what's the percentage of your lineup which is getting signed from band applications?
I'm not sure percentage-wise. We get asked quite often, like, could we play your festival even if we don't have a booking agent? And the answer is definitely yes. You don't need a booking agent to play Roadburn, although in many situations it helps. And the primary reason having a booking agent helps is because I suppose it does depend a bit on your circumstances of your band, where you're travelling from, what your circumstances are in terms of viability for playing other shows. But it's not that common that a band will come and play Roadburn as a one-off. These days, we do fly in bands sometimes and so on, but one of the conversations that we've had a lot this year especially is, can you tour around the festival? Is that actually something that's viable? Because it's not as viable as it once was. So having a booking agent for that purpose definitely is helpful. But in terms of band applications, we don't really have a formal process. You can email us, like our contact details are on the website. And we do book bands that we've never had any contact with previously, and they reach out and we check them out and work with them. But it's definitely, I would say, a harder route to go that way, because we were talking about this before, like I wouldn't ever want to discourage people from taking a shot and reaching out and saying we think we would be a good fit, but how you reach out and how you pitch yourself is very important, and your success rate is going to vary on so many things, and you can't copy and paste the same email to every festival. This is what we were talking about when we were out there before, that somebody could send the exact same email to me and the exact same email to Marin, and it's not going to have the same effect. We're looking for different things. We're different festivals. So your approach is the most important thing.
How about in Beerstone Festival?
Well, it's kind of a funny thing, because we're a fairly young festival. This year was only our second official edition. We never have any official applications open or anything like that. I personally go and look for the bands themselves. But for the 2025 edition, except for the headliners, I only had to reach out to two bands. And actually, one of them is your band, Zoltán, so you're 50% of my inquiries. Congratulations. You can put it on your CV. It's really important for us because of the concept of the festival, and I always say the location is the headliner, and then come the rest of the bands. And it's really important that the bands understand the concept of the festival before they arrive.
I completely agree on this. My festival is a bit similar, like very special location, but it's not about me.
Yeah, like I said, it's really important that the band understands the concept of the festival, that they're not expecting this shiny backstage with tiles. We have this communal backstage that's right next to a river, and it's really important that the bands appreciate that and that they understand and realize where they are going to. On another angle, my goal is to have 40% of the lineup that's bands that most people are aware of and would discover a festival for, and the other 60% to be relatively unknown, and to have some bands that when you're driving back home after the festival to have a conversation in the car. My God, that was amazing! I never heard of that band. Yeah,
so it's all about discovery, or 60% discovery. It's great because it's connecting to the next questions. That if you building a festival or working with a booking agency is a business. So, but it's a creative business. So, where's the line between just finding the spark or finding something really good in emotion manners, or how many bands do you book by numbers, or not only numbers but features at other festivals, or just good streaming?
Well, we have, like I said, 40 bands. In the 2025 edition. It's completely subjective for me. Completely. It depends on what I feel from the band and how I perceive that band in the lineup. So like I opened with the festival, we're trying to do this wide array of genres and to cover basically very, very different sub-genres, and we're all about the sub-genres. So I don't want to go too heavy on doom metal, I don't want to go too heavy on stoner rock, and just to have a little bit of everything. It's quite difficult, I must admit, but it's also really it's such a good feeling when you achieve that, and when you read on social media that people are writing basically what I had in mind. That's something amazing. But for me, it's completely subjective, so I'm really not the best person to talk about this.
Yeah. So you have a booking team, I guess. So how many people are in this team?
There's 3 of us. Walter is the artistic director of Roadburn, and he's been there from the very beginning. He's definitely put his heart and soul into Roadburn over the years. And I think, and then there's Dan, he also works in-house at the O13 venue as their head of music. So there's 3 of us in the team. And I think within the team, there's a lot of flexibility for people's personal tastes, but I think it also, so much of it is gut feeling. And I've learnt a lot from Walter because he very much trusts his gut feeling. And sometimes something on paper seems like, how does this work? How does this fit into the scope of Roadburn? And it almost always does in the end. And I think one of the things, it's interesting you say that about discovery. I wouldn't know what percentage, I have never thought about it in terms of percentages, but we refer to Roadburn as being a voyage of discovery. And whilst we know and understand that people, when they're looking at making decisions about where they spend their money and how they're going to choose what to do with their free time and the money that they have, that they're looking at posters and they want to see names that they recognize, because that's ultimately what makes somebody make a commitment to something. But the bands that make the festival, the bands that people talk about the most afterwards, are the bands that they discover. And anecdotally, we get a lot of that feedback that people come and they say, I found my new favourite band at Roadburn, and I find the bands that I'm going to listen to for the rest of the year at Roadburn. But that's great, and we love that, but we also know that that's not making what makes people buy the tickets. Most people, they look at the poster, they look at the biggest names on the poster or the names they recognise, and that's how they make their decisions. But yeah, so much of what we do is gut feeling. So yes, whilst we are conscious that we have to sell tickets, I think the gut feeling and the artistic decision always comes first. Like, is this something that fits within the remit of Roadburn? Can we push the boundaries of what we're doing a little bit? Can we challenge that artist to do something different that also pushes our boundaries and their boundaries? And yeah, and then we think, oh, I hope people like it.
Yeah, I really can connect to this one, because when we are booking our much smaller festival, we do it like we create some kind of personas. Only we never write those, but we are every day we have 4 or 5 stages. We create journeys for those personas in the timetable. Like if you have something more experimental, then you will find that kind of music on almost every stages during the day.
Yeah,
in different slots.
That's similar to how we work. We don't have like a stage where all of the doom is or all of the metal is. It's like it's more like a path, various different paths or routes that you could take through the festival. And obviously, no one person, no 2 people have the same experience at Roadburn. They find their own way through the lineup and have their own definitive experience of what Roadburn is.
And Zoli, you have to find a way to the minds of these festival organizers.
Yeah, of course, but then
I
I also have to select my roster wisely. I mean, obviously, it is a thing. When I was starting out as a booking agent about 6.5 years ago at Doomstar, and I had what you call build-up bands, it was always harder to get an answer out of a promoter. And then all these promoters, when you have bigger and bigger bands, they slide back into your DMs, and be like, hey, can we talk now? And, but that is a natural part of the process. Like, you cannot just thrive on bands that you personally discover. I'm probably someone who's like a Bandcamp surfer, and occasionally I have these rushes where, okay, I listen to something good on Bandcamp, then I'm gonna get obsessed with like checking out more and more links, and then you're like in this deep dark hole, but it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and then you ordered 15 vinyl records, and probably 10 of them will never arrive, which happened. But ultimately, in order for you to be able to make an impact with a smaller artist, you're going to have the big ones to pull the weight. Because ultimately, we live in a world where this is a profession. This is something that Roadburn has decades. in Roadburn. I have decades in my career. We need to also pay bills, you know, as much as it's disheartening or maybe a bit of a disillusion, because it is a business that we do, as you said, but it's a creative business, you know, and Balázs and I just had a conversation about idealism versus pragmatism last night, you know, that we still like to be idealists. I mean, I have a very good example. I got an email with a band called Rickshaw Billy's Burger Patrol. I mean, what the hell is that, you know? I was like, this name is so ridiculously stupid that I'm going to open this email. And I opened the email, I opened the link, and the band is a perfect mixture of the funniness of Red Fang with a slight indie touch, with a bit of Dinosaur Jr., a bit of Melvins, Primus in it, and it's like, okay, this is amazing. Let's give this a shot. I mean, I'm not sure where Michael is or if he spoke about it, but Season of Mist and I, we work together on a lot of things, you know, and there's sometimes artists on Season of Mist. There was this one particular band, we're not going to name names, they're from somewhere in Northern Europe, that we will all that set, including management, including label, and including us as a booking agency, that this band is going to work, and then it didn't. And sometimes it happens, you know, that we miss things, but then turning on to the festival, where how do I go in with these festivals? That I was a promoter for 24 years, that everybody knows. We met many times. I worked with a lot of agents, you know, and obviously as a promoter, I brought bands to Balázs's festival, to Fekete, I brought to Rock Marathon, I brought to Fishing on Orfu, and I'm talking to agents, and I'm like, hey, so what do you have available? What can I offer to the festivals? And when I got a list of 75 bands, I was like, please stop kidding me. Like, nobody's gonna take, yeah, but that's my whole roster. And that is the key, that you must understand how a festival works, and you must have, I'm not going to go with a band like Toxic Holocaust and be like, hey, Becky, can you book a thrash metal band on Roadburn? Because yes, on the off chance they might like the band, but in what universe is that fitting? You know, and also need to realize that even though a festival like Roadburn started out originally in the doom psychedelic stoner scene, that's not where I offer an act of mine like Dope Lord. That is something I would offer to Marin. And you just need to look at the lineup, and you need to make sure that these festivals feel in a way that this agent makes sense. We need to make sense. We cannot just go and, hey, here's all my bands sprung on you.
I'm getting that quite often.
And you just can't, because then it also means that you are next to a conveyor belt trying to produce stupid numbers just for the sake of, oh yeah, I'm going to try and book this band there. No, that's going to end up in disappointment, because you don't offer, I don't know, a heavy hardcore band to Bearstone, just like, I don't know, you don't offer a thrash metal band to Roadburn, and just like you don't go to a German festival like, let's say, Summer Breeze, that obviously cater the needs to those music fans that like a bit more on the popular end of heavy metal and metalcore. Like, I know a band of mine like Orense Pazuzu will never, ever, ever get booked on Summer Breeze, because that's not what their crowd is after. It's part of your job, and it's also, if you're a musician, it's you need to know where you want to target yourself. You need to know which festival to talk to, because otherwise you're just that person that, as Becky put it backstage, you don't talk to me as Becky from Roadburn, you talk to everybody. You just copy pasted an email, and you throw things at a wall visible, and hope something sticks. You can't. You need to tailor, like, basically, you tailor your needs, and you tailor your bands you can offer to the festival's needs. Otherwise, nobody would like to open your email anymore.
Yeah, but let's reflect a bit more on the bands, because we have many musicians here who are doing shows here, releasing albums, already played abroad, even in some festivals. What's the must-have for them to make the next step to get signed by the booking agency or by a important festival of their subgenres?
That's one for me?
Yeah, for everyone.
Okay. I'm going to take this one, even though I shouldn't. My answer would probably not be the logical one. I would kind of force them to be themselves, to stick to their guns. I don't think that a band needs to play every single festival, and I actually think that if they keep their core intact and not to shift themselves towards a festival so that they are playing there, I think that there are better chances for them to play at that kind of a festival down the line.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Maybe not. What do you think?
So are you saying that you think a band needs to just stay true to who they are and what they want to be, and then they'll be found? Is that what you're sort of suggesting?
That's the naive way of putting it, but basically not to tailor their genre or something towards metal or towards stoner rock. If they have a specific vision, better stick to that vision, because that will signify you, that will put you away from all the others, because there are many bands that sound the same. Rickshaw is a really good comparison to this. They're pretty unique, and there are a lot of bands like that, but I'm not sure if at a certain panel that someone would tell them, yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, but
form yourself a little bit better.
I mean, there is, even if you stay within your subgenres, there is a quite organic way, desire for growth in each and every artist, or most of them at least. So that was part of the question.
I think that obviously staying true to your own artistic vision is a key thing for many reasons, not just for trying to play in a certain festival or get on a certain tour or sign to a specific agent. And I also think that in the context of Roadburn, although we cover many different genres, I suppose a good example of sort of not the festival is always evolving as a band, so sometimes those paths converge at the right time in the right place. And I know that sounds a bit sort of wishy-washy, a bit like just bide your time and it will all come to fruition. But a good example of that is Blood Incantation, who is a band that I've loved for many years, but they were not quite the right band to play at Roadburn until they released Time Wave Zero. And then I was like, well, now I need Blood Incantation to play 2 sets at Roadburn, and they have to do Time Wave Zero, and they have to do a death metal set. And it took 18 months to get the show, and we had it this year, and it was worth all of the stress of trying to get vintage synthesizers, which took a lot of money and time and effort. But like, if we'd have just, I don't know, booked Blood Incantation 4 years ago, it wouldn't have had the success that it did. It wouldn't have been this show that resonated in the way that it did. So they're obviously a big band and they're doing great, but they didn't need Roadburn, but that was an opportunity of our paths converging in the right place at the right time, because they were doing what they wanted to do and we were doing what we wanted to do, and then the two things crossed over. And I think that happens the whole way down the bill. Like, and I know it's not even advice, like to say just keep doing what you're doing and you'll find your way. But I do believe in that sort of, there are bands that we book. I was talking about this before as well. That when there's a band that we're booking this year. We haven't announced them yet, so I won't say their name. But when I was looking for something about the confirmation, I searched the artist's name in my inbox and realized they'd emailed me years before. And I was like, oh my God, I hope I was nice to them. And I went back and I checked, and I was nice. But the time wasn't right. Like they weren't that developed as an artist. They weren't ready. They hadn't played that many shows. They weren't on our radar. But them emailing put them on our radar, and then further down the line it made sense, and now we're booking them. So patience is definitely required. I can tell you that.
Could I just give a quick example of that? This stick to your gun theory. There's a band called Church of the Cosmic Skull. I don't know if anyone here heard of them. They're one of my favorite bands. They played Bearstone in 2023. For those that never heard of them, their tagline is "We put the ABBA in Sabbath." So it's 7 of them. They are wearing these white robes. They actually look like a cult, and that's their whole gimmick. They have this ABBA Beatlesque, what's the term? Symphony, harmony in vocals, vocal harmonies, and this massive breakdowns like Into the Void or something like that with this 70 sounding guitars. There's no reason why they should play a metal festival, but in that same year when they played Bearstone, they played Brutal Assault. They were supposed to play Metal Days and something else. So, yeah, I guess kind of makes sense.
Yeah, but that is the part of actually, that proves a point with this sticking to one's guns in this point, because there are so many acts that have some sort of identity crisis where you don't really know what they want to say, do, anything, and vision is the most important to have, because then you keep coming back. It's all about bouncing back. It's it's not, how was that quote? It's not the fall that matters, but how you stand up from it, And there are many bands that are going to be disappointed. I have a perfect football analogy for this. It was Nick Hornby's Fever Pitch, where he said that football is an extremely disappointing sport because yearly there's 20 teams in the league, but only one team supporters get to be happy. And in some ways, it is like that. There's tons of festivals, but even more bands. Eventually you're gonna get turned down. Even big bands get turned down. Even big artists sometimes do not get the offers they hope. But those who stick to who they are and come and be basically steady and keep coming back and keep having a loud and clear vision of who they are, what is their artistic integrity, that is going to pay off. I mean, even there's crazy examples of a band that fills arenas nowadays and had played in Roadburn in their early days of the career, and that's Ghost. And you can say, I did a tour with Ghost. I hated Ghost with a passion. I was kept calling it Mickey Mouse music with ABBA. But then I had to understand that they actually write a couple gigantic hits, and they stuck to it. They were sticking to their shtick. They sticking to the let's change a singer every once in a while. It was before, you didn't know who they are. You actually thought, wow, this band is kicking out the singer every album cycle, but no, they did not. It was just, it was their shtick. And a band like Ghost that started at, Roadburn, they played Barba Negra in Budapest for probably less than 500 people. This band is an arena band now. And they had a vision. And Tobias from Ghost is actually one of the smartest people I ever got to meet. And Tobias said that they had this conversation on tour that you just need to be the master of your craft, whatever that craft is. If you want to be a promoter, you probably cannot be a booking agent. If you want to be a festival booker, you cannot be a band member, because you need to master your art, you need to master your craft. And this is key for everybody, just like Roadburn kept redefining themselves as a festival and evolved into something that it is now. It was because Walter from the get-go had an artistic vision, and over the course of years he found the proper people who add to the vision and not just take up space. And that's very much like bands need to do, very much like I as a booking agent need to do.
To add to that, I also think that it's important to, I suppose this is probably more practical advice, to not let your ego get in the way of that. Like, it's important to have vision, but I think it's also important to challenge yourself on that vision and allow other people to challenge you as well, because sometimes whilst you should stick to your vision, and that is really key, if you then start working with somebody, a booking agent, a manager, a new label, and they say, I love your music, but something's not right, something's not connecting with an audience, I think we need to look at what's going on here, then I think you don't always have to take somebody's advice, but I think when people ask you questions and challenge you on something, I think that's such a really personal thing, and it can be hard to take sometimes, but I think it can be a real opportunity for growth, because sometimes I've seen that with bands where somebody sometimes just asks the right question at the right time and they go, oh yeah, I've been doing that bit wrong, or I could have been doing it differently. And what you say about Roadburn evolving, I know that from that firsthand, like, it's not always easy to change your path and to change your direction or evolve and make artistic choices, which may mean you leave somebody behind, but it also may mean that you gain new people. And those choices are really hard. And from a creative perspective, I think you have to not let your ego get in the way of not necessarily admitting you were wrong, but realizing that there could be another way of doing something.
Yeah, because those external voices are coming from professional side, so they want to make you too. They want to help you.
Yeah.
Even with an active comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, and this is where idealism and pragmatism need to meet. Because sometimes when someone tells you something, it does not come from a place where I need to sell you out now. You need to do something else. But it's like you somehow, some way, you need to listen to outside voices. I wish, as a musician, as an egotistical maniac on the run, would have listened to people much smarter than I was at the time. But ultimately, you know, we all have to pay the price for our egos, and we all have to pay the price for the bad choices and decisions we make. I do believe, as a musician, I refuse to listen. And I also know that while I wish to help with that part of the knowledge, it is something that everybody needs themselves to go through. But I wish I listened more. Had it been maybe a slightly different musician's career, I'm not bummed about that. You know, I'm perfectly happy with what I am in music, but I also know that I could have spared myself a lot of bad moments had I listened. And I think it's very important, because ultimately that's somehow the ultimate dream for every act, every artist, to have a team they can trust, a team of booking agents, a team of management, a team of road crew, and probably a team of promoters. Because a lot of, you know how
But
good it is.
It's not always happening.
How good it is to have a band back that, you know, as a promoter, I was always had those special holidays when, oh, I know this band is coming into town and I'm so excited to do this show because I always get along with them, and it's so nice to see that the first time there were only 50 people and now there's 300 and then it's gonna grow. It's very nice, and that only, it's basically being out a bit of our comfort zones and bubbles and trying to listen, because ultimately the goal is one part entertainment and one part creative outlet, where we wanna do something nice, also as an agent, also as a festival booker, also as a musician, but we need to be professional at it. We need to grow, we need to have fun, but we also need to make sure our point is through.
Yeah, and we are. So what is different from business? That as an artist you are not alone. You may talk to other bands. You may talk to those professionals, and then not only listen to your own ego. And that's what makes you a better artist, or more respected artist.
But just for the sake of the conversation, absolutely, ego must be put aside. Everything that you said, but we all know how Led Zeppelin got its name. So many phenomenal albums, so many phenomenal bands have just had some real criticism in their start, but they had their vision, so it's a little bit of both. It's not so easy.
Okay. In the previous panel, there was a really good question about going viral and getting quick success online, but how do you convert it to ticket sales?
really good question. We also had this conversation backstage. Funny thing about Bearstone is that since we are in a canyon of a river, there's no signal on the site. So throughout the entire festival site, there's no signal. And on one hand, we don't have live streams. We don't have people posting from the festival itself. And what emerged from all of that is that if you take this 10 or 15 minute walk up the road, up the main road, you will reach the top of the hill and you will reach signal. And so we have people that take that journey in 2 or 3 in the morning just to be the first one to post about the festival. So they're kind of
and that goes viral then,
yeah. So on one hand, we don't have millions of posts about the festival, but on the other, people want to push their message about the festival. They want to be the ambassador. How to...
I think bands also have these ambassadors. We call them top fans.
Absolutely. I just spoke about Church of the Cosmic Skull. That's it. I should get a free vinyl or something. But yeah, how to make the conversion to ticket sales? I'm just do the concept. Stick to the concept of the festival, be true to why you are doing all of this. And I think that if you have a clear answer to that question, every single decision is fairly the same. And I think that when it all boils down, that's what the fans are after, to have something unique and not something that varies from edition to edition.
Okay, but someone like an agent or directly the band can approach your festival that, hey, I got this artist now and they are going super viral, super hot. Is it a decision maker for you guys? Because this is coming from mainstream right now, and this is many underground artists just wanna be that right now, and it's kind of boring.
Roadburn is the foundation of Roadburn is underground music, and that's not to say that bands can't cause a ripple in the underground, but we're not really going viral. Isn't really something that is that relevant to us. Like we don't. I know saying this with no judgment, like how other festivals or promoters book, but we don't really pay that much attention to Spotify streams, album sales. It's also I kind of refer to Roadburn as being like an alternate universe, because we could have a band playing on the main stage to 3,000 people, and when they tour, they play to 150 people.
Yeah, and know this, and it's familiar to me, but it happened to me as well, and maybe you had the same situation, that I made a lineup based on artistic vision, and then the agent contacted me that they want to cancel the show because we have put 2 artists with less stream numbers, both of them on the list.
So we avoid all of that, but we don't have headliners, although Zoltán disagrees. He thinks that he's booking our bands to be his bands to be headliners, and I'm like, we don't have headliners at Roadburn, Zoltán. But he tells everyone that his bands are our headliners. Anyway, we don't have headliners. Even when we do the posters, a lot of the majority of our posters we do alphabetically. Yeah. We believe that all of the artists that play at Roadburn contribute to what Roadburn is. And of course, some bands are playing on a bigger stage, some bands are commanding a higher fee, but when you're at Roadburn, we want you to be all artists to be treated the same, in that we want to provide the best platform for you to give your best show. And that varies from band to band and show to show. But we make some really mad decisions sometimes about where we're going to put bands or what stage we're going to put them on. We don't even sometimes, and we know we drive agents crazy with this, we don't always confirm what stage they're going to be on, because until we've booked the whole lineup for that day, we can't put the puzzle together to go, that's where that band belongs. So a band's viral abilities or streams doesn't really play into it that much.
Yeah, so you have a clear message to the bands that they should care less about metrics.
I don't know if that's... I don't know, because Michael or someone like that is going to come and like hit me around the head if I say that. But it doesn't matter that much to us. But of course, it's an interesting indicator, because sometimes we find ourselves sort of rummaging around on the internet trying to piece things together and going, everyone we know is talking about this band, but they have like 1,000 streams. Like, where are these people coming from? How are these people finding out about them? And sometimes you can't piece it together, and it is just one of those mysteries. And then other times you have bands, this has not happened very often, maybe perhaps because we're not led by things like streaming numbers, but we have bands that we book that do have high streaming numbers, and then people aren't as enthused about them as we anticipated, which I think is just cements the idea that we have to trust our gut, and it's an artistic thing much more than it is about statistics and figures and stuff for us anyway. And again, I'm not saying that with any judgment for how anyone else puts together their festival. Everybody is unique.
Zoli, with your company,
I think
with 170 artists.
I think, you know, when we look at Roadburn, but Roadburn is actually a viral cradle. That while you yourself do not care as much about metrics, but trusting your gut and going with the ultimate decision, look at Chatpile, which is a name that I need to bring up because I did not like their Roadburn show in 2023, and I'm listening to the new record, and it's amazing. And the buzz that is around that band right now, without even having done a European tour, that is largely contributed to Roadburn. So it's like maybe also going viral helps with some more metric-oriented festivals, but also niche boutique festivals that provide a steady quality for people can also be the viral cradle for these bands to grow. And then there's always the bands that we speak about, you know, that, yes, they did a wonderful show for 3,000 people, but sadly in Braunschweig, Germany, they only have 72 tickets. That is no way a measure of artistic value, sadly, but also for all these limited festivals, I don't know, it's weird to say limited festivals, but what I mean is you give an exclusive experience at a festival like Roadburn, then you can count on that the percentage of music fans is going to be higher even if that band only has 1,000 listeners, because you exactly know that you're gonna hit those 1,000 listeners that they have. I mean, metrics are important. That's what promoters, ultimately, that's how a lot of my bands are looking at other bands, and this metal band has this many listeners, that metal band has that many listeners, that is the bigger band, we should support the bigger band. And I'm like, yes, but actual ticket sales are sometimes the other way around.
Yeah, so maybe a key for artists, then they should care less about metrics, but they should check which bands are playing at Bearstone or Roadburn and have club gigs together with them, and that's the way, because that starts the just to talk about them and the spread the word.
Ultimately, I'm going to be the evil suit and tie here. Metrics are extremely important. And that's the thing, that you cannot go around it anymore, because we live in a significantly different world out there. International touring, especially in a smaller mid-level, isn't working as it was working pre-2020. Energy crisis, everything contributes to costs where daily costs are insane.
Yeah, workforce.
How will the promoter decide ultimately? There is a world where we throw a stone and we hit a good show with it. I mean, where are we going to go tonight? Who's going to Sleep Token? Who's going to Ulcerate? And there's maybe a third show too, I think.
No idea.
But anyway.
We are going to Ulcerate, yeah?
Yeah, we're going to Ulcerate. I don't know who else is coming to Ulcerate with us, but we are going to go there. This is the free promotional public service announcement. But my point being is, imagine going to Berlin and how many shows are going to compete with you. Like, I was at IFF in London and I was like, should I go see Chelsea play? Should I go see Frank Carter singing for Sex Pistols? Should I go see Linkin Park? Or I eventually stayed home and watched the game on the TV. But, you know, and imagine that you, as a music fan, you have to whip out a good 25 to 35 euro ticket price now for mid-level venues. Imagine that arenas, we're talking 75 to 125 euro tickets. You need to spend all that money. Now imagine the promoter that, yes, it's pretty bad for you to, buy 10 tickets a month. That is very expensive because, it's heavy on someone's budget. Imagine that one promoter is going to miss 125 euro price tickets that night, and he has maybe 10 events, and he's going to miss all that. All he needs to and has to rely on is the metrics. As much as they want to help small acts, that is where they run out of steam. Yeah. And they simply say, like, listen, we love this, I think it's amazing, but we realistically know with the costs we have, it is not going to work. What can you do? Do you hold a gun to the promoters' heads? Do you bully the promoters? But you must book this band as I'm not giving you my big band. It's unhealthy, it's counterproductive. You need to be able to communicate with these people and find a way.
Yeah, and I always was the big fan of small club shows. I did a lot of small club shows, but after we started doing shows again past COVID, I had just a row of shows for more than a year, over 10 shows which were small club editions, and none of them worked out. None of them reached zero. And I just had to check again the numbers and tell the next bands and next agents that, okay, if you want to play a 150 or 200 capacity venue, what we can make now from tickets is either enough for the club rent and the promo, or enough for the band's fee and the hotel, but no chance to make. Yeah. And I cannot do this, and I have stopped doing these kind of gigs for a while, and it's heartbreaking. But right now, it's artists are a bit more alone in reaching this level and jumping to the next step. So, yeah.
I think this is maybe not contradicting what you guys are saying, but and maybe it's a one-off. It's a one-off example, but I think it's important to say that there are exceptions to some of those situations. So this year at Roadburn, we booked a band called Couch Slut, who came and played their first shows in Europe, and it was booked entirely off hearing the album before it was released. And I guess you could say that's not the exceptional part of that story is that the person that sent it to us was somebody I knew, so I trusted him, but he wasn't pushing it on us. And I listened to this album and I said, we have to fly in this band. And Walter said, are you crazy? You've lost your mind. We're not flying in this band. And then he listened to the album, rang me up and said, this band's amazing. We have to fly them in. So we did. And it was based on purely the music, and it feels it's a luxury to be able to do it. We can't do that with every band that we like.
Yeah, but as a festival, there is just part of the budget is allocated for this.
Yeah, but we did that based entirely on the music, and there was a couple of times when we sort of said, have we lost our minds doing this? What if nobody else likes them? And I think, again, it's a situation that I feel we're very lucky. I don't know if lucky is the right word. We're fortunate to be in a position that people trust us and trust our taste, and that by us saying Couch Slut is a great band, you have to come and see them, people believed us, and they did. And they came back and did their first European tour last week. And I guess my only point in telling this story is that sometimes the music is just enough, and it is enough to convince somebody. And they are an unpalatable band in some ways. Like, they have explicit artwork. Their name is Couch Slut. They're not going to be on the Billboard Top 100. So we understand that there are limitations to booking the bands that we book, but sometimes the music is just enough that makes you go, I'm flying that band in.
Yeah, well, the festival can help them to grow in that scene, even in that country, or you have an international audience. So yeah, we do the same. Like, we book such bands to our festival, and we tell them, please don't do the Budapest club show before that. but sometimes they don't listen or they need a show on the tour. So it's teamwork with the band and the promoter.
Yeah.
But bottom line is that festivals have, I think, different means at their disposal than a random promoter. Because just like you with Bearstone do the same. You get excited about a small band and invite them. Just like
Oh boy, do ya.
like I know like the guys at Tolminator Festival in Slovenia, they love their thrash metal and they just got like super excited by whatever random band that I could name in, and they're gonna make sure to push them. But that's the good part of being a promoter, because then it helps via their festival or via festivals. It basically helps the band to, oh, that was the band that I saw at Tolminator, at Roadburn, at Bearstone, at Desert Fest. I'm going to give it a shot when they come to my hometown. But that is also in part of generating viralness or generating metrics, you know, where you believe in something based on personal taste, just like how I found out to be that a band called Rickshaw Billisburger Patrol is ridiculously good. Just like promoters are going to eventually find out, and there's still adventurous promoters out there, but more and more the numbers are getting pretty cutthroat. Like, I see budgets on a daily basis when I can name, I wrote the book on that 20 years ago. I know exactly where this budget is altered. I know exactly where someone touched this budget to make sure that the band do not walk away with more. Because sadly it happens. And sometimes when you have a steady and long partnership, you cannot say anything about it. But if it becomes a pattern, then that is where serious conversations need to be had with partners. Because eventually there's some notorious people like that all over Europe that I'm like, okay, we go there, no matter how many ticket sales gonna happen, it's not gonna break. But some of these people realize that, oh, we cannot be too hungry. We need to make sure our shows break, because then eventually the band stops coming here. We cannot grow the band anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the goal for all sides, to make those
but
shows break.
that applies for all sizes, of course. But in general, what I feel, you know, is that bands need to grow in their own might. You know, it's not like, hey, you're a couch slut. You play for 200 people a night. Tomorrow go to an arena, play for 13,000, because that's not going to happen. But every band in their own might need to have some sort of growth projection. And if it doesn't, then also hard conversations must be had within the band. That, is this what we're doing work? But this is why you mentioned teamwork. That teamwork must be it, where a promoter is like, I cannot book you a club show because I'm going to lose everything I made on whatever big show, but I have a festival, let me put you on this festival, let me give you an opening slot or whatever, a small stage higher slot, and let's build, and we bring you back to a club show, and then building together is important.
Yeah, that's a good way of artist and promoter relationship. Well, I miss it somehow.
Yes.
Okay, guys, do you have any final thoughts which you really wanted to share with the musicians here?
I'm going to be honest. Please come to Bearstone Festival. It's a lovely festival.
Book them.
Please go to Roadburn.
Yeah, do. Come to Roadburn. You'll be very welcome.
Okay, now let's see if there are any questions from the audience. Again?
Hello, David Katona again from the same Closing Town Orchestra. I have two questions. One is, Zoltán, you mentioned this economic reality and budgets. Does it make a big difference in a booker's or a festival's case how many musicians are in an act? Solo act is cheaper to transport and feed than a band of 6.
I worked with a band that had 8 or 9 members on stage. It was not easy. It was not easy. I think Balázs has 2 of these acts. It's, of course, because hotel prices are also insane, you know, and but there's more and more festivals, even big ones, that say, hey, here's your offer, but How you get there, we don't care about. Where you sleep, we don't care about. We're going to give you something to eat. But eventually, of course, it cuts into it because I have an act that needs to fly 7 people and 17 excess luggages that are, it's a band very hard to fly, and that is very, very pricey. So, of course, it is a brutal world out there when I talk to people about that band's price, and they're going to be, oh, but how dare you? And I'm like, well, I cannot have them pay to play at this stage in their career. They're not a build-up anymore. But this band costs this much because that's where they're coming from. This is how they fly. They bring crew. It sadly always matters. Of course, a trio is, or a one-person band, a trio, something like that is always, that can make promoters bend a bit easier if they say, oh, do I have to book 15 double rooms now for this band and give them so much food? I mean, when I was a promoter, this was one of the reasons we stopped doing shows like, I almost named names now. There have been a collection of bands, usually 7 or 8 of them on one night, and they were doing modern metal hardcore tours. We were like, why, for the 3 headliners, why do we need to feed 70 or 80 people that come with 3 nightliner buses when is the same 300 to 500 people interested in them?
Yeah, I have a comment
So yes,
on that. Yeah,
big issue.
I wanted to talk about this. It's the pay-to-play thing, and there is. It's we need to clarify this method of touring as well, like what you are paying for, because there are the tours you mentioned. Where you have 1 or 2 headliners and the rest of the bands are just paying to be there, and they are investing in this.
Yes.
And what's your opinion about this?
We are trying not to do this.
Yeah.
But a tour bus that used to be €1,000 before COVID is between 1,600 and 1,800 euros, and not from the fanciest company.
Yeah, so this is what I wanted to clarify, that you are not paying for the headliner. You are
so it's not like, the band is going to go in and be like, hello, headliner, here is 1 million euros, can we be your support? No. How it goes is that we give offers to bands, and they're like, listen, this is the sad reality. This bus costs this much. I need to divide the beds on the bus and divvy up between all the bands, with obviously the headliner, the one that always has a full crew and everything. Yeah. So they always going to end up paying more than 4 dudes in a band or 5 people in a band. But those costs need to be split up, and those costs need to be paid. And sometimes your fee that you get is just enough to cover that. Sometimes you pay your agent and pay the nightliner and you have 20 euros left. Sometimes you go into a 50 euro minus. Then you must rely on your merchandise sales to make it work. But ultimately, we have this notion, I think Hungary loves Hungarian musicians. It's a dream to be in a nightliner. It's like, we made it on a nightliner tour. I made it on my first nightliner tour. I was very proud in 2006. I was like, I think I made it. No, I did not. But anyway, it ultimately, it costs money. But still, when you are on a level of touring where the band can afford such a vehicle, that it sort of comes with the assumption that the tour is somewhat bigger, and you get to play for a bigger audience. And I have a very fresh example that one of my package tours that was on a nightliner ended, and while the deal itself that our opening band had was not the most ideal because they had to participate in such costs, the band absolutely killed it on merch, like brutally killed it. And
so
this is where the band sacrificed and invested and got into a level where, okay, we need to tour at this level. It's going to cost this and this and this and this much. We're going to probably lose this and this and this much, but let's hope we sell. They did.
Yeah. And you play better when you
exactly.
sleep more between the shows. and so it is worth at a certain level. But if you are ready for it, merch wise, marketing wise, and everything.
Yeah. Exactly, and and it's like this is again an evil suit and tie thing to say, but money makes more money. You need to invest in some way for better sounding records, better vehicles, better looking merchandise, better designs to grow your band, because that's a part of your vision.
Yeah, but the risk is much higher than in safer investments.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, any more questions?
We are the question guys. So I have just one quick question. You previously spoken about that you have to check the lineup to choose the most fitting festivals for your band. But let's speak about a band which plays in several different styles. I have a few bands I really love who can play jazz, funky, heavy metal, and hip hop at the same time, really awesomely. One of these bands have been on Fekete this year. So how do you book a band like this? Because you cannot say to the festival that this is a heavy metal band. No, because this band plays the same amount of funky and jazz in their music.
I don't want to answer on your behalf. If you're asking about how he would pitch it, I can tell you how I would want it to be pitched, which is a bespoke pitch that they may be capable of all kinds of things, but whether it's the artist coming direct or coming through an agent or a label is doing it or a manager, that they understand why it would work at Roadburn. So they might say they're capable of all of these things. However, having been at Roadburn or having seen what you've done in previous years, I think if they put together a set of XYZ, I think this would be the perfect thing that would work at Roadburn. Or if we've already announced some bands for Roadburn that year, then they might be saying, I see you've booked this band has played with them, and when they did this particular set and it worked really well, would you be interested? And it may not be that we end up booking that thing or that particular set, but it's an opening, it's a conversation that is being started because they understand what we're looking for, or they're trying to understand what we're looking for, and that's where it goes. And again, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but there's an element of curation throughout the whole process. So what you were saying earlier about knowing which bands to pitch to a festival, if a band that's capable of all of these wonderful different genres and things came to Zoltán and said, I want to play this festival, then he's curating his pitches and he's deciding which festivals it would work for and so on, and then the festival's deciding. So it's kind of knowing your audience, I think, and knowing what would work.
Yeah. It is also a matter of how you mix the things you mix. Because if we spoke about vision and identity, and I think it's been a big thing in the 2000s in Hungary when there were many bands, and I'm like, so how do you guys sound like? It's like, a bit of this and a bit of that. I'm like, no, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear a clear vision, because you need to define yourself. If you say that you're a genre-bending band, that at the same incarnation and the same set of yours, you can touch all these, it could very well be a bit batshit crazy. Let's face it. But it also can be the right amount of crazy where you're so genre bending that it very well might be the missing link between festivals like Bearstone, Roadburn, Desert Fest, and even bigger ones where you do something interesting enough. If you say that your same band has either a jazz set, either a metal set, either a hip hop set, that is, it's fairly easy, because, hey, Becky, would you take the jazz version of this band? No, probably Roadburn wouldn't. But the experimental heavy one probably would. But just like I cannot knock on the door of whatever hip-hop festival to be like, hey, I got these guys, they got a little hip-hop in them, but it's just mostly heavy metal. So if you're one of those bands that you think is genre bending and you found your identity through this, then it very well might as well, from an agent's perspective, be like, okay, I can see it working. I need to hear it, I need to listen to it, I need to figure it out, I need to think about it, and then be like, can I knock on the door of this certain festival with it? And ultimately, I think that is what it boils down to.
Yeah, thank you so much. So right now, let's get Michael and Björn back. Let's take a 5, 8, 10-minute break. And then we're going to continue with the listening session. So thank you so much for
Thank you.
having me.